Welcome to this section of the Triangle of Unity Festival, and I'm joined by two stellar gentlemen. We're going to have a bit of a conversation, which we hope you'll enjoy. First up is Michael Mapp. Michael is a prolific multidisciplinary artist based in Wandsworth, Battersea, whose work spans photography, graphic design and creative production, renowned for his incisive lens as a cultural and fashion photographer, and he uses compelling visual narratives that probe the complexities of identity. The gentleman sat next to him is the one and only Sky Andrew, the first black football agent and also a 3-time Commonwealth gold medalist. Welcome, gentlemen. So our conversation is going to be about identity, British identity, and you were born in Trinidad.
Yes, I was.
Proud Trini.
Yes, I'm Trinidadian, yes.
But your work is deeply rooted in the African Caribbean diaspora, isn't it? So tell us about your work.
Well, my work is rooted was kind of very much rooted within my journey, being an immigrant coming over here and passing through other places before getting here. It did kind of inform my idea of what identity really meant, and then kind of getting into life here, it became more and more apparent that obviously I'm not the British, and my identity was something that I had to consider. So having to, how can I say, assimilate language-wise, because I had my Caribbean accent and stuff like that. So in order to fit in quickly, you had to assimilate effectively. So that's what kind of happened, and that's where the foundation of my idea and interest in identity came from.
How would you describe your identity? And is it something that has changed with your travels?
No, I see myself still as a Trinidadian British person. So Trinidad is where I'm from, and Britain is where I've spent most of my time. So I have to be pragmatic and realistic. That is what comprises of my historical mock-up.
So you're a Trinidadian.
Yes, I'm Trinidadian.
British person.
Yeah.
Trinidadian British.
Trinidadian British.
Ish. And Sky, to you, your identity. I mean, I know that your family emanate from the Caribbean, from the wonderful island of Dominica. I say wonderful because my family are from Dominica as well. How do you see your identity?
I suppose I see myself as English because I was born here, but with a Dominican heritage. I think that because my mum and dad came here in the 60s, and then the house was always of Dominican culture. So my mum and dad would speak patois, Dominican, in the house, and some of us would pick it up and some of us wouldn't. And so I was very interested in the culture, about how my mum and dad used to go to school, how their lives were in Dominica. And some of my cousins, some of my family, they don't look to the heritage. They're not that interested in what Dominica is about. But you know, Roseau, Guadeloupe, I mean, I know all about my heritage, and I champion it. You know, once someone said to me, "Well, what are you? Are you English or are you Dominican? You keep talking about Dominica." I said, "There's nothing wrong with knowing your heritage and being proud of your heritage. But at the end of the day, I'm English. I was born here, so I'm effectively English. But in the early days, I believed that cricket was about supporting the West Indies, because my mum and dad, they came here, but that was immersed in their culture, you know, cricket and things like that, and the food. You know, my mum would always cook Caribbean food in the house. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with embracing both cultures."
Mm-hmm. Michael, Sky mentioning there that he's interested in the language, the Creole that they speak in Dominica.
Yeah.
When you came here, did you feel under pressure to modify your accent, change the way that you speak and that you communicate? You did?
Definitely, I had to. So.
But why did you have to?
80s Britain wasn't as open and as it is now. It wasn't as welcoming as it is now. So certain differences would be highlighted, like customary differences were there too. So not just did I have the barrier of a West Indian accent, I didn't know what custard was. So literally, like little cultural things like that made it quite interesting. So I did stand out quite a bit. I did have a few elder people in the area that kind of looked out for me and stuff like that, and didn't allow me to kind of fall down the weird other category of black people in Britain at the time. So, which was really helpful for me because it allowed me to stay within the subculture that was local at the time, and then assimilating to how they sounded made it easier because it meant that there wasn't that additional bit of attention that you may not necessarily want. You just kind of you do want to fit in, just want to be one of the boys and stuff like that. You don't want to be the different one so that did make me kind of learn to fix my elocution to the British way quite quickly, let's say.
But being different isn't necessarily bad, is it? And being different for us and many like us, it's not something that you can hide. So I want to ask both of you in turn, your difference, how has that helped or maybe you might think hindered or changed your path in your professional career?
Do you know, when I first started as an agent, there was a feeling that no black person could be an agent because all the agents were white from other cultures. And I think that there was a pressure from your own peer group to not sell out. So if you spoke well, or you didn't speak the slang of the street, or you acted in a certain way, even my own brother said to me once, you're not like me, you're not like us, you're different. And that's coming from your own family. So there is a pressure but that there's a section of your community that if you go on and you speak well and you immerse yourself in a life that helps you to succeed, then you can be seen as a sellout because there's no two ways about it. In the past decades, there was a glass ceiling on people of colour if they didn't conform to the way things are done. So I would say to people of colour, my own family, that it isn't just black people that have got to conform. If you don't play the game or you don't learn how to climb the ladder, there will be a glass ceiling. Yeah. So there is that pressure. I've listened to people criticising Ian Wright. Ian Wright is a legend. Yeah?
Yes.
And there's a section of community who say, look at Ian Wright. He don't act like a black man. And then you see Ian Wright on Instagram playing his reggae music and dancing. You either want to be successful or you don't. If you want to be successful, you've got to learn how to play the game and what you need to do to be successful. People of colour, you know who you are, you know where your heritage comes from, and that shouldn't stop you from going on and succeeding. And you might be a little bit different to a lot of your black family or friends or whatever. You've succeeded on a platform where there aren't that many people of colour. There are now, but there never used to be. So we should all be proud. As black people, we should be proud of any black person that breaks the barrier, breaks the mould, smashes through the glass ceiling, and sets an example.
But I think also to come in on that being black and being successful, they're not mutually exclusive. And also this sellout term is something that I really rail against because there isn't one type of black person. We're not one homogenous blob.
Yes.
Where we're all different and there isn't a particular way to be black.
I totally agree with you on that, and I do pick up on Sky's point. So learning how to speak like my peers meant that I didn't sound like this. So I had to learn again, after learning how to speak to my peers, how to speak to people outside of my peer group, because it's different elocution, it's different things. And coming from having to change my whole pronunciation and vocabulary, it was easier for me to speak in a way conducive to business and success through those experiences, and then allowing myself to cut. It's not duplicitous, but horses for courses, as they say. So if I'm with my friends, I won't speak as demure as such as this, but if I'm in certain environments, I would speak accordingly.
Is it code switching? Do
Yes.
you identify with that?
Yes, I do have to identify with that. I think any black person working in a successful realm or trying to push for success will have to code switch, because depending on, let me pull back and say in most environments. So in some environments you are lauded for it, such as music and so on and so forth, but some places bringing certain ebonics and identity to it doesn't particularly help your chances of moving forward, especially if the paymasters don't share your cultural history. So sometimes it's better to, as Guy says, play the game, because if you want to win, you have to be playing the game. You can't play the game from the sidelines and expect to win.
Do you know, someone said to me once, I was negotiating quite a big deal, and the guy said to me, I don't see you as a black person.
Oh.
And then I went home.
That's when you should have walked out.
And my mum was putting on her skirt. Come on, let's go and see this guy. Let's go and see what he sees about black people. And I said to her, what do you mean? He went, well, there's black people that work in my company, and they're good guys. So I thought, I'm gonna have some fun here. So what? Are they all good guys? Yeah, no. It's a few black people. But the fact is, I remember Trevor Phillips saying to me that he was always the only black person in the room. And that's a feeling no white person will understand, unless you go to the Caribbean. And you spend about 10 years there, and you go in and you look around, So how you deal with that as a black person is very important. So let's be honest, there are black people that will excel, and then they'll shut the door behind them. And there's other black people that will excel, and they will leave that door open. There is a lot of pressure on someone of colour that excels to then be helping other black people, because the people in the room often don't want you to do that. I used to go to clubs when I was younger, and and there was always a black policy. Whether they told you or they didn't, there was, if you're black and you got to come in with two white people, or you got to come in with a mixed race and a white person, right? And so this is what you carry as someone. If you're trying to be successful and you go up the ladder and then you see the game, you see it, and you think, okay then, well, how much representation are the paymasters going to allow in this room? So when people talk about positive discrimination, I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. We just want the best people getting the opportunities. If someone's of colour and they're good enough, give them the chance. And if another person of colour follows behind them, be brave enough to say, yeah, we've got one in the room, we're going to have to let another one.
But positive discrimination isn't about letting everyone in. It's just about those with the credentials, those with the criteria being given a chance. It doesn't mean that they're lesser than, because I think that's often misconstrued, that positive discrimination means that people are not capable, and they're just being given a leg up.
Yes, sadly there is a stigma associated with it. Yes.
Let's talk about your art in particular, Michael. I mean, that's why we're here. We're a festival celebrating your art. How have you managed to bring through that concept of identity, Black British identity, through your work? I don't know if we can see any of it, but
initially,
we were before.
Like the first pieces that I did, including the Union Jack, they were an idea that I'd had for many years previous.
We can see some now.
It was with different models. In my mind, I saw it with different models in a different location. But then an opportunity came up to work with a countryman who was a stylist, and everything fell into place. He had the flag. He was like, oh, I've got this flag. I was like, oh my gosh. So we got to work effectively and put the piece together, because he was very good at posing and very good at styling effectively. And I knew exactly what I had in my head that I wanted to do. So luckily we were able to execute it in a manner that came out well and, stood the test of time.
What would you say to those that might say, that you've treated the flag with irreverence by representing in this way?
I would say the Queen and that thought different, because actually I was featured at the British Business Embassy exhibition during the Olympics at Lancaster House. And my piece happened to be the only piece in the whole show, alongside Damien Hirst, McLaren, and all the big names. I was the only black male in the room, and my work was the only work to feature the Union Jack. So I would say that as much as people may, the person who owned it didn't see it like that. Because I wrapped it on a black mannequin, and I dressed in the clothing, and it was quite a political statement to make at the time, being the only black man in the room dressed in a Union Jack outfit with a black mannequin. That was quite a thing, and it was very, very well received. So people may say that, but it's more about the actual context of it. So the context and idea behind it is, even if you drape yourself in these fineries and whatever, can you actually be British? Because there's a line. You can be English, you could be, but there is a line that is drawn, and we are like cats born in an oven. We won't be cakes. We'll always be cats, you know? So it's that kind of conversation, no matter how well you speak, no matter how, there's always going to be a limit as to where this will become a barrier, you know? So it's kind of looking at that whole experience effectively.
And Sky, in that context, are you happy to drape yourself in the Union Jack?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think at the end of the day, for me, I was born here. So when I'm playing for England, I'm playing for England. But when England are playing, I'm supporting England unless my family around me and they're watching the cricket. I play for England.
All rules change when it's the cricket.
But the thing is that when I started in the mid-90s, I always really I represent black and white people, but I always thought this country needs a black icon. You know, someone that communicates and understands the importance of the next generation. And I'm really glad to see that Jude Bellingham now is one of our first superstar black footballers, and he's doing lots of commercial stuff, and he talks well, and I'm supporting him 100% because we do need to have people out there of colour who say, look, there's no glass ceiling with me, right? I'm going all the way because I conduct myself in the right way. No matter what colour you are, if you don't conduct yourself in the right way, you're not a role model. That's what people forget. So, but for me, being involved in a sport where there was such a lack of representation as an agent, and then such a lack of representation as a manager, as a coach, and ironically, a lack of commercial representation when most of the best players are black. So, you know, there's got to be players to step up and say, I want to be commercially viable. You know, I want to go and meet the royal family. I want to go and set an example to everybody. So it's very, very important to not segregate yourself from where you're at. Where are you? We're in England. I'm not getting upset about anything. You know, I was just fierce because I grew up in Canning Town, 6 of us in 2 rooms. Our toilet was under the bed in a bucket. So that's what gave me power.
Yeah.
So when I went through the channels of power, no one could stop me or say anything to me. No one could say anything about my colour. It's just all about fulfilling your potential and excellence. And I don't let any negativity come into my foregrounds.
Very, very wise words. Just to round up, I'm just going to play devil's advocate. Might you consider some artistic representation where the Union Jack sits alongside the Trinidadian flag? Can you see that as an evolution?
There is actually things in the mind where both, it's not just Trinidadian, there's other Caribbean islands that
I'm only saying because you're from Trinidad,
In my mind, I already have things that are lined up to kind of incorporate both those flags and also other Caribbean flags that are so heavily associated to English past as well. So it's kind of like a holistic look at it. My personal perspective is from being from Trinidad, but I don't want to promote it as only a Trinidadian situation because it's not. It's a wider situation, and I believe that my work speaks to people beyond just my own cultural background. I think it can speak to people that may not even be black, because I've had people view it that are French and believe that this really it resonates with them. I've had Senegalese look at it, and you know, so it's a situation whereby we're hoping that the message can grow and everybody can understand it, and we ourselves can take that opportunity to understand our own identity a little bit better. Like Sky is lovely, he's resolute in his identity, his Dominican heritage and his Britishness, which is fine, but he knows his heritage, he knows where he came from. Understanding that, I think, is the most important basis to your identity. And a lot of, sadly, sometimes we lose sight of that as a people, and that can lead to unnecessariness, shall I say.
Yeah,
You know?
you need to know where you come from. Just
Yes.
one more thought before we close.
Yeah, I mean, our amazing Natalie Emmanuel, who is in all sorts of stuff in Hollywood now. She's in The Killers, she's in Megalopolis, she's doing great. I mean, she went to Carnival and she took a picture with the St. Lucian flag and the Dominican flag. And there's a lot of people who's like, why is she? It's because that's her heritage.
Yeah.
Dominica and St. Lucia. And like with me, I still try and get involved with anything that's going on in Dominica. I really wanna help in any way I can. But the struggle we all face is the market. With your work, how big is your market? Your market for your culture.
Yeah.
Right? So people come over here, they want to do something that's ethical and from the heart, but then sometimes you have to consider, what can I do to grow my market? Either the majority of people come to you, or your market is going to be for the majority.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you want to come back on that?
No, he's totally right. He's totally right. With my work, I do that. The stuff you see there is my passion. That's from my heart. But there's a lot of other stuff that I do that has nothing to do with the cultural, historical, social, political situation.
Yes.
You know, there's stuff that's literally just pretty, or just fashion based, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know.
No, we like just pretty as well.
I just
Mike,
wanna say,
go on.
You know, this has rolled me for 2 decades, 3 decades. We need to support each other. So I don't mean that people only buy your work, but at least acknowledge it. Because what happens is that you've got very good artists in all different platforms, and if they don't get support from their own people, it's twice as hard. And as a fundamental aspect, support people of colour that are doing something doesn't mean that you don't support other people. Support everybody.
Yeah.
But support people of colour, support females. You know, give that support, because that helps us all to get on and be successful.
Absolutely, well said,
Totally.
Sky and
Spot on.
Michael. Thank you both. And Michael, your next exhibition might involve Sky and I dressed in the
That would be
Union Jack
wonderful.
and the Dominican flag.
That would be
so I'm
wicked.
just
Me and you
planting
play-
that
That would be
seed.
lovely. Or what you can do is come down to the studio, and then we can dream up some amazing stuff together.
It's a date.
Gillian Joseph, you're my sister. You are the queen of television, and you're wonderful. You're a wonderful human being.
I didn't pay him. I really didn't pay him. Thank you both. Thank you both.
Thank you. It's an
Give them a
honour.
round of applause.
Cool.
Really beautiful photos though. They're
Thank you.
stunning.
Thank you.
Send me
They're
some of that footage, man.
Yeah, definitely. The wife got the bits, so I'll send you that, and them not got it. Just make sure I get your details.
Yeah, you're just a natural sister.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank
That was
you.
very good.